everybody. Natalie coming to you live, Spirit and Coffee. Got my coffee here. Mm, yummy coffee, coffee, coffee. So, just so you know, right here, I have double espresso in my Barcelona cup. hmm And I forget the name of the place where I got this. I know I got it at the market, this beautiful cup for my espresso. Mm, lovely. Okay, let's get started. Let's go ahead and start reading because got to get through this book. So just so you know, I say let's get started then reading, and then I always have something to say, of course. But I'm gonna book myself. Sorry, guys. Okay. So just so you know, I um started reading Kundalini Rising. Kundalini Rising is an amazing book about the Kundalini energy. If you don't know what that is, um, it's sort of what it means is coil. And they say it's like the snake like energy that goes up through the spine. And some call it the chakra system, some call it, good morning, Michael. It has different things, right? Different uh, sort of, what do I want to say, connections to the different parts of the body, different parts of the esoteric works that I talk about. A lot of it has to do with the spiritual energy that rises from the spine up into the third eye and out into the cosmos. It could be called the chakra energy systems and all that. Okay, but Kundalini is it's just an energy field that moves through our body. Okay, and it allows us to purify, to clean out, to come to terms with who we are as a spirit, and allows the spirit to move through us seamlessly. But in doing that, we have to clear out all the blockages that come with that, and that sometimes is not fun. Um, those are what we call the dark night of the soul that some people go through, or like pure hell that people go through, right? Sometimes we're like, oh, this is pure hell. This is not fun. Why? And that's why. Because the Kundalini is coming in and clearing up all of the blockages within our body. It's like the obstruction. So even in my own personal life, like the obstruction in my body, right? At one point, I was doing something called the mucus healing system, where I was trying to be vegan. Didn't work out for me so well. Didn't really know what I was doing and didn't feel confident in it. So, good morning, Jackie. And so, didn't continue doing that. However, it was there to clear out the blockages within our body. Because when we clear out the blockages, we're able to move seamlessly or allow spirit to move through us. And sometimes um, it gets clogged up, and that's where the pressure comes in. That's where the pain comes in. And even in our bodies itself, it does that. When there's obstruction in the body, we feel pressure, right? It's the same thing with the spirit. And so sometimes we have to go through what's called the dark. Good morning, Nadan. The dark night of the soul. But that book is really good. So it's the Kundalini Rising. Maybe that'll be the next book I read on here. Who knows? There's tons of books out there that I could read. I just want to be able to read something that's going to support you guys and get the conversation going. I am drinking a double espresso, by the way, Jackie, on Podbean. I hope you have your coffee with you. And I hope you guys on Facebook Live have it with you. Okay, let's get going. Okay, so we're going to read from the Four Agreements. And here we go. We know that we are not what we believe we are supposed to be. And so it feels false, frustrating, dishonest. We try to hide ourselves. We try to pretend to be what we are not. The result is that we feel unauthentic and wear social masks to keep others from noticing this. We're so afraid of somebody else will notice that we are not what we pretend to be. We judge others according to our image of perfection as well. And naturally, they fall short of our expectations. We dishonor ourselves just to please other people. We even do harm to our physical bodies just to be accepted by others. Okay. You see teenagers taking drugs just to avoid being rejected by other teenagers. Now, this is what we call what peer pressure, right? We have this in our life. Peer pressure is a real thing, and sometimes people are coerced or forced into doing it. Why? To be accepted by other people. Why? Because we are social creatures. We want to be in communion with others, and so we say, well, if everybody else is doing it, we must do it in order to be accepted by the group, right? And so sometimes we are doing things that we shouldn't. Now, this happens mostly when we're young, right? Good morning, Auntie Christine. Good morning, Nicole. This happens mostly when we're young. We get peer pressured into stuff when we're young. We're more vulnerable into that. We're more vulnerable into stepping into what other people want us to do. Why? Because we want to be socially accepted. We want to have friends. We want to be able to connect with other people. We want people to identify with who we are. So then we pretend we're someone we're not, so that why people can accept us for who we are. Now, when we get older, we stop giving a shit. And if you've noticed, I love older people. Older people don't give a two shits, excuse my language, about what people think about them. They've had it all. They've done it all, and they're just like over it. They've sort of like given, it's like, here's your pass. You have the right to not care what other people think about you. Well, guess what? You have every right to do that now. You don't have to wait until you're 105 years old to say, you know what, screw it. And that's the way it is for me. I'm like, I don't care. I am who I am now. It's either accepted or not. And that's not my problem if you don't accept me. I cannot, and just like you guys, cannot force people to like you for you. You could pretend to be somebody else, but the reality is after a while it becomes so exhausting to try to be someone you're not. And then eventually your true authentic self is shown anyway. So why do it? Just be you. If people want to be around you, they will. If they don't, okay, that's fine. Good morning, Doreen. Okay, so you see teenagers taking drugs, avoid being rejected by other teenagers. They're not aware that the problem is that they don't accept themselves. They reject themselves because they are not what they pretend to be. They wish to be a certain way, but they are not, and for this, they carry shame and guilt. Humans punish themselves endlessly for not being what they believe they should be. They become very self abusive, and they use other people to abuse themselves as well. So we do this again, right? And again and again and again and again. Good morning, all you early risers. I'm doing this super early today because I have to be at work super early. So there you go. So again, we punish ourselves endlessly, right? And we're afraid. We start to feel like, let me say okay, because speaking for on behalf of you guys is not fair, and I think that you guys can speak on behalf of yourself and how you do this, right? But let's just say, for instance, prior to the way I am now, is that I did want to be accepted, or that I felt like I had to prove something to someone, or that I felt like I had to I wanted people to be proud of me, basically. That's what I wanted. And in particular, my parents. Okay. And I wanted to prove that I was worthy of their attention, and that I could do great things, and that they should be proud of that, and that, that they would give me I don't know, a golden medal or something. And I spent my life chasing that, right? I wanted my father to be proud of me. But I always felt like I was short of his praise. Like he would be proud of me, but I didn't really feel like he was proud of me. It was always like, oh, you could do better, or you could do this, or you. So it never felt like I was enough. And I put that on myself as though I had to be. And so I continued to, let me try this, let me try this. Ooh, look at me here. Can you be proud of me now? Um, and there was always something, some criticism that would come with it. Never 100% I'm proud of you. It was always like, oh, you're too old to be doing that. And I'm like, well, I thought you'd be proud. And it was like, not really. So again, I was trying to live my life through what? Pleasing others so that I can get attention or approval by others. But the reality is, it doesn't matter. Did I want approval by anybody else? No, it was my father that I wanted approval from. And after a while, I said, you know what? No, I'm not going to do this. My life is not about that. My life is about me accepting me for me and being proud of myself for what I do. And accepting that God knows that my intentions are good and that I'm doing good for humanity. And that's where my heart is. My heart is to give value back to people. Now, I have never cared what people thought of me, and even when I was young. Yeah. And it's not that I cared what people thought of me, but we all have that feeling inside of us where we want to prove something to someone or we want to um, sort of please others in some way, right? Be it our husbands or our children or parents or whoever it is, rather than just being who we are, right? And wanting to just be accepted by others. And it's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But then we sell ourselves short and then we become something we're not. And then we abuse ourselves for not for falling short of somebody's expectations when we shouldn't even be doing that to begin with, right? Or you can if you want to, but is it going to get you the result you want? Again, always the same questions. Okay. Okay. So here we go. So, but nobody abuses us more than we abuse ourselves. And it is the judge, the victim, and the belief system that makes us do this. And here we go about judging ourselves, right? Why do we judge ourselves? What happens in the time that we're judging ourselves? How does that show up for us? Well, the judgment in ourselves is like, I'm not enough, or I'm falling short of, or whatever it is, the conversation that happens in your head and how you judge yourself and how you're going to move forward. Now, good morning, Leo. Um, So it is the judge, the victim, and the belief system that make us do this. True, we find people who say their husbands or wives or mothers or fathers abuse them, but you know that we abuse ourselves much more than that. The way we judge ourselves is the worst judge that ever existed. Now, here's a big thing, and I can tell you that I've heard this conversation and I hear it, and people say it out loud. So you can kind of tell how people talk to themselves internally. It sort of seeps out without them realizing it. Their internal conversations will sometimes come out. And usually it happens when, let's say, they're doing, usually at work, when they're doing a job, or if they're at home and they're cleaning or doing some kind of a task, right? That's typically when you start to hear people's internal dialogue. And you'll hear people say, oh, I'm so stupid, or oh, that was dumb, or oh, I can't believe I did that again, or whatever it is. And they judge themselves and put themselves down. Now, ask yourself, and there's times I'm like, no, you're not dumb. Why are you calling yourself that? It happens. We all do it. Like I talked about me dropping the pot of stew on the floor. Did I say, oh, I'm so dumb? No, I just said, okay, that happens. Now pick it up and apologize. Like I felt really bad. I felt terrible that I dropped their food, but guess what? They weren't even upset. They're like, it happens. Don't worry. But we judge ourselves. We say, oh, I'm so dumb. Oh, that was stupid. Oh, I forgot that. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. Whatever it is that you say in your brain, right? That we have these judgments that we put in our head. And those judgments, what happens? Good morning, Darlene. What happens with the judgments is we speak them out loud, but really what we're doing is judging ourselves for who we are. We should be better. We should be perfect. Really? Should you? Is anybody? No. You're not perfect. So stop or don't try to make yourself perfect because you're not. And it's okay. You're perfectly imperfect. Even in the imperfections, it's okay. Shit happens, okay? Excuse my language, but it does. And I obviously say shit a lot in here for some reason, okay? Okay, but nobody judges yourself more than you, okay? The way we judge ourselves is the worst judge that ever existed. If we make mistake in front of people, we try to deny the mistake and cover it up. As soon as we are alone, we judge judge becomes so strong and the guilt is so strong and we feel stupid or so bad or so unworthy. That's what I was saying. Oh, that was so stupid. Or like he's saying in the book, sometimes we hide it. And this is huge. It's like taking responsibility for stuff and not being ashamed to do that because we think that they're going to judge us for what, being incompetent, not being enough, or not doing something. It's human nature, and they too are not perfect. And so when we can recognize that in others and we can say, oh yeah, we all make mistakes, I can own up to mine, it's a huge difference. They don't have People don't have power over you when you're able to just accept what you've done. Even, I mean, it's not bad. Like, for instance, I'm going to give you an example for my own, and if you guys have examples, you're more than welcome to share. But so I was at work and I'm in this new position, and we're sitting with the regional director or whatever, and we're talking and such, and I had an appointment and I didn't have it down written, and if I don't write stuff down it doesn't happen. And so we're in this meeting, I'm like, well, I have a meeting at 12, I'm going to have to step away um at 12 or at 11, 30, so that I can meet my appointment, whatever. And then I sent a follow-up message to the person I was going to meet with. Okay, I'll see you at 12. No, they said, I thought we said tomorrow. And I said, oh, okay, my apologies. I'll see you tomorrow. Let me write it down in my calendar. I forgot it. So I automatically said, okay, I forgot. And I did this, right? And so the general, or the manager, right, was telling me, so what happened? Because we were in training, and he called me out in front of everybody. And I said, well, what happened is I didn't write it down. And if I don't write it down, then I forget. So I didn't write it down. And he's like, okay. And I said, yeah. I said, so I'm writing it down now, so I remember. But I didn't deny it and say, oh, make excuses. No, I said, this is the process. This is what happened. And he said, thank you for being honest. And that's the thing. If I do something, I just take ownership for it. Okay, yeah, I did do that. So what do you want me to do? Is that not the right way? Maybe I don't have enough information. Maybe you need to teach me. Maybe I thought that that was okay at the time. Da da da, like that. Maybe there's a process in place, and maybe there's a reason for the process. Sometimes I want to know the reason for the process because I'm one of those people. I have to understand why I'm being told to do certain things and how it makes sense in the scope of things. That's me. Some people will just be like, okay, and then be resentful that they don't know why this is happening. If I can see a practical reason for why I'm being asked to do something, then it makes sense. But if not, I'm going to be like, why that process? Is it always been that way? Should we change it? Does it make sense? Those are the types of things I do. I ask questions. Okay, now, does that make me particularly favorable? Not necessarily. People who ask a lot of questions tend to get killed sometimes. I hate to say that, but our biggest philosophers that asked the biggest questions and stood in questions actually did get murdered, ridiculed, or crucified. Okay. Anyway, it's getting a little deeper than probably should. But again, we judge ourselves and what we're up to. And instead of just taking responsibility, we try to hide what we've done. I made a big boo boo one time as well in my previous line of work. And I was doing, good morning, Betty, was doing this contract. And in the contract, I was like, I was really good with it, but then I got kind of slapped on the wrist and like, you can't do this without that. And I go, oh, shoot. Okay. I didn't realize that. And I did do that. And now I know where I went wrong. I know where I went wrong in the process, Now I know. Now I understand. So again, for you guys, it's take personal responsibility. We try to cover it up, right? Instead of being like, this is it. Yes, I screwed up. Oh, wow. That's what I said to the GM. I'm like, yeah, I know what I did. And he said, you know what? You're highly self-aware, aren't you? And I said, yes, I am. People respect that. And not only do they respect it, but then they tend to start to do it too. Good morning, Andrew. They themselves will start to take personal responsibility for their own self again. And then they'll say, oh, okay. This person takes responsibility. I can take responsibility. I know that I'm not going to be ridiculed. I know that I'm not going to get in trouble. And that's why I personally like working with people. I like managing people because I want people to feel like they don't have to hide out, but they could be 100% true and honest. And I think that's where the biggest issues come in, especially in the work environment, especially in relationships, is that we're like, oh, if we say the truth, am I going to get in trouble? So I'm just going to deny it, hide it, and then I'm going to judge myself for being a liar or not sticking, being consistent or whatever. So I always tell people, be authentic as possible. If you do something, say it. If your intentions are good and you're doing what you're supposed to, you shouldn't feel guilty for doing something or wrong. I go into my work environment now and I can tell you if someone wasn't strong willed and didn't know themselves, they'd feel like they were doing something wrong all the time, but they're not. It's just a feeling. Why? Because there's an expectation, of course. But if you're doing what you're supposed to, then what it's that guilt. It's kind of like so for instance, like going out on work, like for me, I can go out and I can do things like meet up with people outside of work. I don't have to stay in an office, right? That's not really my forte. I don't like doing that. But when I go out, if I'm not doing work and I say I am, I'd feel guilty. Why? Because I know that I'm not being true. So what do? I say the truth. And I actually live by my intention. I would not feel right not doing that, but that's me. And I'm honest, right? So when I go out and say I'm going to go do work, that's what I do. If something else were to come up, then I say that, right? It's just being communicating authentically about what's going on instead of trying to hide things, right? And we typically will do this with work more than anything, I think. Could be with family too, but I think mostly with work we do this. Maybe in relationships too. Like I would be, well, I don't know much about relationships. Obviously, I'm not good at them. It's like the lowest on the totem pole for me because I don't even know how to be in one. But I think people do that in relationships, right? Instead of just being like, look, I need a timeout. I really just need time by myself, right? Please let me process things because I need time to process for me. But I think people are afraid to say this, or if they do, they feel like, oh God, they're going to not want to be around me or whatever. But it's like that separation time of like reflect and let go and let me just be with me. Good morning, those on Podbean. Didn't see you guys show up. You know, we need to have a whole podcast about relationships. I'm sure there are. I don't get it. I don't understand them. I'm like a little baby when it comes to relationships. I'm like a friggin' teenager or something. Probably younger than that. Like what? Okay. So in our whole life, nobody has ever abused you more than you have abused yourself. And the limit of your self-abuse is exactly the limit you will tolerate from someone else. Now, I love this particular line in this book. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why. This right here is so critical for you guys to understand. This is a big key to help you guys move forward. Without understanding this truly and fully, it's almost hard to create relationships that are going to support you to level up in some way or to touch your spirit, right? Or to be in relationships that can help guide you to your higher purpose or being, okay? So in your whole life, nobody's ever abused you more than you have abused yourself. I want you guys to let that set for just a second. And you might be thinking, no, that's not true. I had a father or I had a mother or I had a cousin or an uncle or an auntie or I've been through this or that or the other. You know, nobody's abused me. There has been more people that abused me more. And the reality is it's not true. And I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to say why this piece or this 1-2 sentence is so critical for you guys to get because it will shape the way that you engage your relationships in your life. And I don't mean just like relationships of intimate relationships with a partner. I'm talking about all relationships with your kids, with your wife, your husband, your grandchildren, your whatever it is, your brothers, sisters, your close friends, your everything, okay? Your relationship even to God. Okay? Good morning, Ari. Good morning, Rolokio. Lokio. R Lokio. Gemini, Vicky. I don't know if you guys are still on here, but good morning, those on Podbean. Good morning, Jane. Okay, so let's see what my Auntie Christine says. It says, the worst thing anyone can do is cover up their mistakes. It's always better to admit your mistakes and take full responsibility. They will always respect you for that. Yes, absolutely. And that's right away. Now, let's talk about this. In your whole life, nobody has ever abused you more than you have abused yourself. I hope you let that sentence set for just a second, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay? And then we'll go the limit, and I like the way this is worded, and the limit of your self-abuse is exactly the limit that you would tolerate from someone else. Okay? And then we'll get into the next sentence. And for me, this is probably the most important, in my personal opinion. It was most impactful for me when I read this book the first time, because why? Because it really was an eye opener. And I had to really ponder these sentences. Is this really true? And then I started to think about it, and it is true. And perhaps that's why I've been single for so long, because I love myself so much. I'm not going to let somebody treat me worse than I treat myself. Okay, so I want you to understand that we will not let people treat us worse than we treat ourselves. And people say, well, how is that true? Okay, listen to this. When we are in relationships, okay, if, okay, you can tell, or not if, you can tell how much somebody loves themselves, I guess I want to say, based on the relationship they're in, how they get treated by others, the way they allow people to treat them. Now, if a woman, because I thought about this, and when I thought about this passage, when I thought about this particular part of the book, I thought about a woman being abused, okay? And that was the vision that came to my head for some reason, about a woman who maybe gets beat by her husband, okay? And this is, I thought about this. And I thought, well, how could this woman be abusing herself worse than this person who's physically harming her? How does that make sense? And then I thought about it, and it's why? Because if a woman or a man are in a relationship where they're okay with that abuse, that tells you what's happening internally to themselves. They don't think that they are enough or worthy enough of being treated better than that. So they treat themselves a little worse than that person does. And that's why they stay in that relationship. At the time, good morning, Nadette, that person wakes up and says, no, I'm worthy of more than this, they will not tolerate it any longer. And they'll never go back to it. But typically, someone who's in that mindset, someone like a woman who gets abused or hit by a husband or whatever it is, or another person, or vice versa, a man getting hit by a woman, could be the opposite, is that they themselves don't think they're worthy of anything better than that. So their self-worth is so depleted that they themselves beat themselves up more than this person who's abusing them. Because if they felt that they were worthy enough, they wouldn't be there. And I thought about that, and I was like, wow, that's pretty powerful. So I want you guys to really understand your relationships. This is, good morning, Emmy. Good morning, Live Shot. Good morning, Malakaya. Good morning, El Boogie. Good morning, Tracy. Oh, Trakey, 194, Podbean. This is critical for you guys to understand. Why? Because this determines how we engage the people in our life. This determines the people that we have in our life. There was at one point when I was reading the Christ Blueprint, 13 Keys to Christ Consciousness, we did the mandala. And I don't know if you guys remember the mandala. Some of you guys were following me on here. Some of you guys weren't. The ones on Podbean, obviously not, because you're new followers. But when we did the mandala, it was looking at the people in our life, our circle of people that surround us, the people that have influence and impact. Now, when we start to dig deeper and we look at the people that are impacting our life, we ask ourselves, how do I value myself based on what I'm seeing, the people that are around me? Because that will determine how much you care about yourself. If you're around people who are constantly putting you down, ask yourself, how do I put my own self down? Why am I tolerating this? Do I think I'm worthy of people who are here to illuminate me rather than bring me down? Because that is I'm telling you guys, this is very, very critical. This part of the book is probably the most powerful part of the book. Yes, the agreements are important. Yes, we get to do practices, but this right here is the most powerful paragraph in the book. Why? Because it talks about your own self-worth, really being honest with yourself. Because when we start to look at the people around us and influence us, we're telling ourselves, I will only tolerate as much as what I think about myself. So when you start to look out externally, because you're going to look externally and be like, well, that person's terrible. But why are you allowing yourself to be around that person that's terrible? What do you think about yourself that you would allow someone like that in your space? Those questions are powerful to ask yourself. And it almost sometimes is frightening because it's like, well, what have I been doing this whole time? Well, you know what? I haven't been valuing myself. Why do I keep this company? How come I'm allowing these people to influence my life? Get very, very picky about who you have around you. It's okay. Sometimes you have to take a time out and be alone. And God be your only friend. Trust me. I know from own personal self. Like, oh God. Because some people just don't want to treat you the way that you feel you deserve to be treated, right? It's like, I know I love myself so much that I'm not going to allow others to disrespect me or treat me in a harmful way. Why? Because I wouldn't do that to them. Good morning, Mama. So it's critical, right? Now, this part of the book, like we can probably talk for weeks and weeks and weeks, but I'm just getting really, really real with you guys in a way, in a kind, gentle way. Not in a way where I'm like, oh, you know how I get forceful. This is more of a gentle conversation. Why? Because this has to do with you and your own personal relationship to self and really understanding how me internally, how I engage myself is a direct relation to how people around me engage with me. So the extension of you are the people that you are surrounded by. Are those people, right? Loving, nurturing, and kind, or do they treat you ill? And if they treat you badly, then guess what? You treat yourself worse. That's the big kicker. Good morning. I've always kept a small circle. Yes. So, and that's it. And you can keep a small circle. But even in that circle that's small, how do they treat you is the question. Because if you look at the way they treat you, if they treat you great and they see you for who you are, then you know that you love yourself. You're like, I know I love myself because I won't tolerate somebody treating me like crap. So for those of you, especially the ones that are quote unquote doormats, the ones that feel like they're getting walked over all the time, guess what? It's the relationship you have with yourself that's creating that. You don't think you're worthy. And that's a hard thing to swallow because most people will be like, yes, I do. Well, if you do, then why are you keeping company that doesn't deem you worthy? These are powerful questions, especially with life coaching or spiritual coaching that we ask people to look at. It's uncomfortable. These are the questions that we dare to ask when we know that people will bail out, right? Most people will be like, I'm out of here. I don't want to answer that. And that's when they start to get a little afraid because it's like, now I have to really look and maybe reshape my life based on the understanding that I myself don't love myself, that I myself don't deem myself worthy of good relationships. Why? Because then I might stand alone. and I might be alone. And the reality is, yeah, you might for a while, but you're never alone, right? God's with you always. But this is a hard one to swallow. And this is my favorite part of the book. It really is, because you can ponder that for the longest time. Think about it. Start to look at the relationships, start to say, well, how do people treat me? Because we want to point fingers, right? We want to point the fingers at everybody else. They've done this to me, they did that to me. What are you doing to yourself that you're allowing this to happen? How do you see yourself that this would show up in your space? Because if you thought yourself worthy, if you knew that you weren't enough, this wouldn't even show up in your space. You wouldn't tolerate it. You would stand up to it. Now, most people will get caught in the throat chakra. This is where I was talking about the throat chakra gets clogged up and stops, and we're unable to communicate or articulate the uncomfortable things that are coming up for us. And sometimes it comes out not so pretty. Trust me, I've had to practice. It was very hard to communicate things when I felt like I was under stress or under pressure. So, but I did it anyway because I'm a practitioner of the work. I did it anyway. Good morning, Jennifer. And what happened when I did it? It didn't come out so pretty, you guys. It was not the prettiest thing, trust me. I don't tolerate nothing. I love myself too much. Exactly. So it's hard because you end up standing alone sometimes. And I can tell you that I have stood alone. I've been alone. Good morning. I can't stay long. Wanted to request prayer, positive vibes. Thank you. Yes, please. Let's pray for Jennifer. Good morning. Good morning. SC Kiddo 6. Jennifer, yes, prayers to you. We found out my daughter and dad at next. Oh, wait, found out my daughter's dad. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. So please send prayers. Good morning, Will. Send prayers out to Jennifer on Podbean, who's going through a hard time right now. And we found out Friday. We found, oh no. Well, we send lots and lots of love and light, especially those that are on this. So on Facebook, on Podbean, we have someone who's requesting prayers. So please pray for her and her family, and healing and love and light and all that beautiful. You're in my prayers and thoughts. That's why I love these platforms, because we can come together and we can all face life, the challenges of life, the things that are hard for us to deal with. Good morning. Good morning, Tim. Thank you for sharing and doing your life. Oh, thank you, Tim, for showing up. You're totally welcome. Good morning to and good evening. Yes, good evening in the Philippines. And so I truly appreciate, yes, Jennifer. Absolutely. Prayers all the way around. And that's part of the story that we go through, right? That's, again, we all have hard times. Nobody escapes it. Better alone than with bad company. Yes, and sometimes we end up feeling isolated and alone. But we have God. And that's the beauty of it. If we can find our connection to source and God in those times, our trying times like Jennifer, or when we're feeling completely alone, then that's the time that we feel tapped into source, into God. And those are the times that allow us to do that, is in that space of emptiness and quiet. And I think that some people might be afraid to do that, right? They're just like, well, I'm alone and I don't, well, why are you alone right now? Are you really alone? Or are you just afraid of that interdimensional connection because you don't know it, you don't understand it, and you're afraid of the unknown? Okay. So, good morning. May they rest in peace. Yes. Thank you guys on Podbean for chiming in for Jennifer. Um, good morning, 09. 37092347. Is that a number? You're welcome, Jennifer. Love and light to your family. See, and that's beautiful. Thank you. We need to realize that we are the first love of our life. Thanks, Emmy. Love and respect yourself first. Nothing is wrong with prioritize ourselves. Thanks, Emmy. Yes, that was from Emmy on Facebook Live. So we have sort of two conversations happening, right? We have the trying times of our life that we go through, that everybody goes through suffering, right? And Jennifer is asking for prayer. We also have the conversation that I was talking about in the reading, where we talk about loving ourselves and understanding the people that are around us. Good morning, Ruby. How are you? Got your coffee? I got my coffee here. Double shot of espresso. But we do get those moments where we get to experience life and its greatest joys too. Okay, so let's go a little bit further. I want to go just a little bit further into this one particular part of the book. Why? Because I think it's so critical. It's so critical. You guys, this is one of the biggest key. Gonna get my coffee now. Yum. The biggest part of it, okay? So if someone abuses you a little more than you abuse yourself, you will probably walk away from that person. But if someone abuses you a little less than you abuse yourself, you will probably stay in the relationship and tolerate it endlessly. That is the part, okay? That is the part for me that is sad, okay? And sad is a judgment, because we could make it not right, wrong, good, or bad, but I'm not going to go into that right now, that particular piece of the work or the practice that we go into. Why? Because it's critical that we understand the company that we're keeping. When I love you, not yet. Yeah, the coffee. I know. Yeah. Oh, Ruby, you can come by and have an espresso with me. My Nespresso machine that I got. Um, the treating ourselves badly. Okay, so think about it. I want you guys to, and we'll probably end this way, but I want you guys to think about the company that you keep. And I want you guys to think, am I mostly here that I'm a doormat, right? Like I give and give and give and give and get trampled on. And mostly I think the people that would show up here are the ones that are givers, the kind-hearted people who continue to give even when people maybe quote unquote mistreat you or do this or that. Now, here's the deal. Do no harm, take no shit, right? I love that quote because that really speaks to this. It's like we can still be loving, kind, and nurturing people. We can still give back to humanity, but we don't have to tolerate being treated like shit. Excuse my language. Unless you want to. So I would say look at your circle, okay? Look at the circle around you and ask yourself, is this relationship supporting me or not supporting me? How do I feel I'm treated in this relationship? If I feel like I'm treated bad, but I continue coming back to it, that's when you start to look at yourself and say, how do I treat myself? Because you're not going to allow people to treat you worse than you treat yourself. And this is a critical point. This is probably one of the most critical points. When we start to stand up for ourselves, when we start to say, no, you will not treat me this way, I will not tolerate this, guess what? You start to lose a lot of people in your life. I know it sounds opposite, but it's the truth. Because you start to say, wow, I love myself, which is why I spend a lot of time alone by myself, because I'm not going to allow someone to treat me a certain way. I love myself. Understand that I am a vessel of God. I understand that God moves through me. I understand that I'm an extension of God. I am God. God dwells within me. I understand that fully, completely, wholly. So am I going to allow somebody to treat me less than that? No. But guess what? So many people will try to push the limits. And I'm like, I can't do that, which is mostly why I'm alone, in terms of intimate relationships, which is mostly why I've been single, because I won't tolerate not being treated the way that I deserve to be treated. Now, on the other end of that, I treat people with the same respect. Am I asking people to be perfect? Absolutely not. That's not the point. Do no harm, take no shit. That's right, Ruby. You get to come be my guest on Spirit and Coffee. So I want you guys to ponder on this. Please, please, please. I'm going to go over this tomorrow because for me, this is the most important part of the book. It is the key. It is the ticket for us to start to what? Clean up the caca, doo-doo in our life so that we can actually start to walk in our divine birthright with the people who are there to support us in the elevation of our life rather than suck up the energy from us, the little energy we may have left. It's okay to walk away. So that is why it's hard for me, as especially as a life coach. From good morning, Jeff. From if I'm putting on my life coach hat, not as Natalie, but I'm putting on this character of life coach. It's really hard for me to hear people in their pity parties about how others are treating them, because what that tells me is that they treat their self-worth worse than that, and they think they're worthy of, or they don't think they're worthy of having great people in their life. Rather, they think that they're worthless, and that's why they have those people in their life. And so it's really getting to the root of, why do you think it's okay to be treated this way? Why? Well, people think why? Because they're like, well, I've just made myself wrong. I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I matter. I don't think what? That you're deserving? Come on. You're beautiful. You're worthy. You're enough. You matter. You're God. I mean, think about how beautiful that is. You are God in motion. There's nothing more magnetic, more magnificent, more magical than that, more mystical than recognizing that we have, our spirit is in this vessel, this body that can move forward. I mean, you're never going to happen again. Your trillion gazillion cells will never manifest in the exact same way like you ever again. You are uniquely you, which is so amazing. And when you guys can recognize that and see that and step into that and live that, that's where the power lies. Not that you're better than, but that you're in co-creation with. But you've got to be honest with yourself. Who are you keeping company with? And is that company really supporting you in finding your true self? Let's see. Okay, so we have a couple of comments here. So we have Will, who said, actually, I'm in school. I'm a school principal, and since I'm following you, I shared all the thoughts and ideas to my faculty, and they appreciate it. Oh, thanks, Will. I appreciate that. Perhaps I'll go to the Philippines one day and meet you. There's a lot of people I'd love to meet that are around the world. I like internationals. But I've never been to the Philippines. Perhaps a place I get to go. I have a friend who has connections there, actually. Good morning, Voyage. Um, keep inspiring us, Natalie. Thank you, Will. I totally appreciate that. Thank you for chiming in, and thank you for inspiring me. And thank you for the work that you do. And sharing this with people, sharing ideas with people, because you are a teacher yourself. Your mama always used to tell me, okay, Betty, yeah, your mama used to always tell me, you know, when you're ready because you'll stay with someone that you shouldn't have. She was right. That's right, Auntie Christine. That's true, Ruby. Some people think that they want to fix them. They can't fix them. Yeah, and they have to fix themselves. Yes, thank you, Ruby. That's the most important person that needs to be fixed. Honored and respected is your own self. That's right. And I love this space. So inspiring. Thank you, Voyage. I love you. And I love you guys on Podbean. Thank you for showing up. And I love you on Facebook. Thank you guys for showing up always. Yeah, they think they want to fix them. That's another thing. It's like we're on a mission to fix people. People are not broken, you guys. I have to remind my niece of this all the time. I'm like, people aren't broken. When you say they're broken, you're saying they're not enough. You're saying that they don't matter and that they can't fix it themselves. The reality is, people are not broken. What they're doing is they're going through their own experience. And they need to go through that experience for some reason, some purpose. And it's probably to get them to go through the pressure so that they can come out illuminated. The phoenix itself, when we talk about the phoenix rising, has to go through major shifts and changes. The earth itself, when it was created, didn't come out to this beautiful globe with life on it. It went through pressure. We have volcanoes. I mean, we have pressure, right? And the pressure is important. It's part of the alchemic process. So, those issues that people are going through, yes, we can be there to support, but we're not there to fix. Now, I can only support others by asking them powerful questions so that they can then take it to themselves. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your life, not my job. I'm only here to provide support in some way, some value, some way. Like, I'm like, please, God, let's help. Let's not help, but let's give this information to people so that they understand they can do it. You guys have the power within you. It's not me, it's you. You get to do the work. I have to do the work too, or I get to do the work too. And trust me, it's not always pleasurable. Let's see. Okay, Kiddo 6. I'll be starting a podcast soon, and my first will be a review of podcasts that I've listened, and you're on the list. Oh, thank you. Let me know if you ever want me to come in as a guest or speak on your podcast. I'd love to do that. Um, or chime in and write some notes like you guys do. I don't know how to invite guests on here yet on Podbean. I'm still learning myself. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. And um, kudos. You know, that's awesome that you're doing a podcast. I think people have a voice now, which is amazing, right? It's inspiring to know that we have a voice and that we can magnify that voice out. And maybe you will be the reason I write my book that everybody keeps saying I should write a book, and I will eventually. But I'm reading a good book, Kundalini Rising, and I highly recommend it as a book to read if you're interested in Kundalini, which is the energy that flows through us, right? The vital force, almost maybe like Elan Vital, the vital force, the spark of life, the divine energy that moves through us to illuminate us into our divine birthright, our walking, our divine purpose. So again, highly, highly, highly recommend that you take a this is a recommendation, right? Or homework, whatever you choose. Really, please look at the people in your life. Each individual is responsible for their own life, and they know that. Yeah. Some people, I think, have that disconnect, though, that they don't realize that they're allowing people to treat them that way because they feel internally don't love themselves, but they don't want to accept that and see that for what it is, and they're afraid to admit it. But once we admit it, once we let go and say, yeah, I don't love myself. Okay, now what? Now I get to learn how to do that. What does that even look like? How do I begin to love myself? How do I begin to let go of those individuals, right, that are not supporting me in that self love? That's a hard conversation because we want to stay connected to people. We need companionship. That's what life is about. It's companionship. It's be able to be in communion with others and to come together for a common purpose. But can we come together for love? Absolutely, I believe we can. Okay, people think I'm altruistic and think, oh, Natalie, your head's in the cloud, this, that, the other. I don't care. I love everybody. And even the ones who have, quote unquote, have done me wrong, I love them too, even though it's not the easiest process. But I believe we can live in a world of love. Yes. Okay, Ruby says, yes, we're responsible for themselves, but a lot of people don't know how to turn around to themselves. Yeah. Many have to be taught, many have to be guided, um, have to be loved, though it is not that easy. That's very true, Ruby. That's a lot of how I feel. It's people just They don't want to be responsible for themselves. And because what happens when we start to become responsible for ourselves, we've got to live up to this whole new way of living. It changes our lifestyle. Lifestyle changes are kind of hard to do for some. Lifestyle changes are big, huge things that happen in our life where we're like, oh, I'm going to transition from this to that. And that's not easy for most. And that's okay. Baby steps, right? We just take baby steps to get there. Um, and let's see, many are so hurt. Ruby says, many are so hurt and been so many pain, and I've been beating up physically as children and have been tortured and raped. Yeah, and it takes them a way long time to realize being guided to someone to teach them to love themselves. So you got to understand that there are many people who are come from places. Yeah, many of us have never been. Yes, and that's a very nice way to say it, because to talk about those traumas that people go through, and I've brought it up before. We all go through the suffering, but there is a distinction, and I've talked about the distinction between a victim and a survivor. When we wear a victim hat, we stay stuck in that old way of thinking. In fact, it probably keeps us stuck in past stories. But when we become survivors, we start to create new stories for ourselves. We start to step into our own personal power. Now, is that easy for some who've been through some really harsh times? Not, probably not. No, I don't think so. But knowing that there are people there that still love them and still want to support them and still are there to, guide them. And there are. Good morning, Rick. Have a good day. Thank you for coming on here. So, again, that's why I said this part of the conversation is the most critical, because we could probably spin off an entire year of talking about this particular subject. Yay, you got your coffee. Yum. This topic alone can take years to probably talk about, because we spend our life believing, right, that, oh no, this is the way it is, and that's that, and that's who I am, and those are the people that I'm going to be around for the rest of my life, and that's it. How do I untangle? How do I disconnect? Or how do I get myself and move apart? And it's really not easy. It's not an easy process, and I'm not claiming for it to be easy, because it's not, you guys. That's the difference between what I speak about and a lot of these quote unquote guru self-help books and stuff, is that they deny the fact that it's not an easy process. They want to put it in this nice package, but it's not a nice package, trust me. That's the part they don't tell you. When you open up the gates to your spiritual awakening, when you start to do this work, guess what? You have to face your demons. You have to face the things that are uncomfortable. But they don't tell you that. They're like, let me just condition you to think that life is just perfect. It's not. And then we think, well, this isn't working. Why isn't this nice, perfectly packaged book that I read that's supposed to help me in what? Finding my life's purpose. Well, no, it's not working. Why? Because it's always talking about how I should be happy and all these practices, and yet I feel like shit. Well, why do you feel like shit? Because in order to get to the good, you have to go through this shit. You have to. There's no other way. People can say there's another way. I would really love for somebody to really show me and say that there's another way. There's not. Because if there was, Buddhism, which came ages and ages and ages ago, said they're suffering. And I want you to tell me who hasn't suffered. I can guarantee it's funny too, because there'll be gurus, well, I haven't suffered. And then you go and meet them and you're like, whoa, there's so much, I don't know what, ego. When someone can be humble, and the reason why these quote unquote ascended masters, right? We're all ascended masters, really. But when we quote unquote look up to these ascended masters, guess what they're going to tell you? I went through hell. They're not going to tell you life was pretty and beautiful and roses. No, they went through suffering and pain. And they're humble and they recognize the human condition for what it is. Did they deny it? No. They didn't deny it. They accepted it for what it was and they learned to transmute the energy of that uncomfortable feeling. That's what they did. But all these self-help books ain't going to tell you that. Good morning, Maya. Oh, Maya, thank you for all your posts. I want you to come try our yoga. Let's see, takes years, but yes, they can heal with God's help. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you guys for all the blessings and love. And Jennifer needed that too. So we're sending blessings. Of course, Jesus is our Lord, the relationship with God. Amen to that. Maya, thank you for showing up. I'd love to take one of your yoga classes, but I want you to come over and take some of our yoga classes too. I know that you're always trying to learn. We have the new alloy yoga. There's some Kundalini yoga too. I'm going to try. Excited about that. Okay, so great engagement today, you guys. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for, yes, everyone has suffered. And that's the big part that we get to recognize. I'm in New Mexico. So I really, 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 really want you guys to get that you guys matter. You are enough. And for you to realize that for yourself, take a look at the people that are around you. Ask yourself how those people treat you. Be honest with yourself. If they're treating you, quote unquote, ill or not good, guess what? It's because you don't love yourself. Because you're not going to tolerate it if you love yourself. And I want you guys to really get this. So, what would it take for you to start to step into loving yourself and start to clear out maybe the people or the characters in your life that are not serving that self-love? Is it a bad thing? No. Are we making them wrong? No. Okay. We're just saying it's not serving me in this moment. And I get to what? Create something that's going to help me move forward. Okay. Good. Maybe that's why I'm so darn happy. All the I went, oh yeah, all the caca you went through. Exactly. Once you go through all of that and you find your peace, you're like, oh no, I cannot accept this. It's like red flags right away. You're like, nope, there's not a strike three. There's like a one, and you're like, I love you. I pray for you. And I hope that you are. Good morning, Karan. So that's the big thing too, is that we can love at a distance, right? We don't have to. We don't have to be around it. It doesn't mean that we can't love them. We can love them at a distance, and that's okay. Right now, the relationship's not serving me. Does it make that person wrong? No. Does it mean they're bad? No. It just means that right now it's not good for me, and that's okay. Period. I'd go over there to get my coffee, but I'm scary right now. It's all good. Being honest with yourself is the only way. Yes, but Ruby, come over eventually, maybe on Thursday. Thursday would be a good day. Come over on Thursday and have some coffee. I have somewhere to be at 10, but before that, I can do Spirit of Coffee really super early. And then at that time, we can have coffee before I go. Or in the evening, if you like an evening coffee. I drink tea in the evening. So there you go. Okay, so I'm gonna let you guys go. I'm gonna continue to go over this particular paragraph over and over and over and over again. Why? Because it's so critical. This is one of the most critical parts of the book. Okay, I just want you guys to understand that. Please, or don't. It's up to you. But I remember it's very important. Laughter is very healing. Laughter, laughter, laughter. Yes, please laugh. Have a good day. Okay. So I love you guys. Have a magnificent day. I will be having a magical, mystical, marvelous, magnetic Monday. Right? Today's Monday. Sometimes I forget what day it is. And I will see you guys when? Tomorrow. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and I will be on Podbean tomorrow. Tomorrow might be a little later. I'm sorry that the times are not consistent, but my schedule's all over the place. So there you go. So love you guys. Brewing love daily. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye. 4:30. Oops.